There are times where you need to push and go and just get things done. Absolutely. But while you're doing all of that stuff, I also believe that throughout that process, you should be looking for ways in order to make your work easier.
Welcome to Working Women Mentor, the podcast that delivers mentorship in every conversation. Each episode, we meet remarkable women who share the real moments, challenges, and breakthroughs that shape their journeys. These are stories that inspire, empower, and remind us of what is possible. I'm your host, Rani and I cannot wait for you to meet today's guest. Let's jump in and uncover your next mentor moment. Hey everyone, welcome to Working Women Mentor. I'm your host, Rani and we are chatting with LaKeisha Tomlin. She's the founder of Thriving Ambition, and she helps professionals build financial options through structured trading education. And when you think of structured trading, everyone's talking about markets and how great or how awful they're doing. Everyone has their opinion on this, but her opinion is about building a structure, setting up some financial structure in your life, and along the way, showing you the principles that she's learned through her Ivy League education with Yale and Johns Hopkins, how she approaches life, how she's become so successful, how she started with nothing and has everything and is learning every day. Aren't we all? Let's jump in and meet LaKeisha Tomlin. Here we go. LaKeisha Tomlin, welcome to Working Women Mentor. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Rani. Thanks so much for having me on the show today.
It's my pleasure, our pleasure. I have a feeling we're in for a really fun conversation today. So before we get started, LaKeisha, would you introduce yourself to our guest?
Yes. So my name is LaKeisha Tomlin, and I have a long career working as a technical leader in various industries like aerospace and tech. And on the side, I picked up the, kind of hobby of learning how the financial markets work. So I am excited to get into all of that today, just because I know that this conversation will help so many people, as, how everything I've done has helped me quite a bit. So excited to get into it.
I love it. I love it so fast because you didn't have enough time. You figured out how to do something else and you're like, it's kind of my side gig, but not really. So I'm going to show everyone else how to do it. Okay. Right. We ask all of our guests to text a friend. Did you have a moment to get any feedback from someone who knows you so well and how they would describe you?
Oh my gosh. So I didn't get the opportunity to do it for this, but I have done it in the past. And usually I'm the person that people come to for career advice, or people come to me for like, hey, I'm thinking about this company. Like, what do you think? And I have to tell them like, hey, I'm not a financial advisor or anything like that. So those are typically the two things that people come to me for.
So people have begun to know you as the financial brain, the brain to go to when they need that solid advice. I love that. We all need a friend like that, LaKeisha.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've had an incredible career so far, and it's not over. You're just in the middle of it, but you have had a variety of industry. You have an incredible education. What has been the common thread that is woven between everything you do? Before we really get into everything you do, I'm curious how they all work together.
Yeah, so that's a great question. And I've thought about this a couple of times myself over the years. And for me, it's basically just the pursuit of excellence. Like, I just want to do things that obviously are interesting to me, that are mentally challenging. And then after I accomplish it, it's like, wow, I did that. So like for me, it's more so personal in terms of just wanting to continue to improve and get better and just challenge myself and see what else I could do.
Yeah, it's always that one denominator, isn't it? I mean, even when we do a variety of things, some people, I was on a podcast just recently and they were asking me about something and I'm just like, but we can take the same thing and apply it to different areas, right? We don't have to be this expert in absolutely everything in the world. So it is refreshing to hear you say that. And you also talk a lot about kind of shifting your perspective from outcome to process when you're working. Share that with me because, we need outcomes. we absolutely have to have an outcome. But give me some insight into your thinking process because this is an outcome-focused culture right now.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's really hard, especially with social media, depending on whatever you're trying to do, you see somebody in your lane that's seemingly doing much better than you are. And it's really easy for us to compare ourselves to other people, when in reality, we don't know what has happened in the background in order for that person to, have this level of success that we're seeing now. We don't know how long they've been in the trenches in terms of like trying to figure things out, trying to get it to work, trying to find a formula that works for them, that fits their life and their life goals. So there's just a lot of stuff that is happening on the back end. So over time, it wasn't like an epiphany, I wish, but over time, I realized that there are outcomes that I cannot control, but what I can control are my inputs. So if I put in the time to really learn how like the financial markets work, eventually that could lead to something. If I put in the time to maybe research, that job opportunity or figure out who that hiring manager is, or maybe talk to somebody from that industry, then maybe, that could lead to me getting an opportunity in that area. So basically my whole thought process on focusing on outcomes, or not outcomes, but inputs to get the outcomes, then that has really shifted, how I see everything, because it's me doing the work. It's me taking that first step. And sometimes that could be scary, but I know that if I just take a simple first step, then I know like after I figure out that, I'm going to wonder what's the next step, and then what's the next step. And basically these little tiny steps lead to these outcomes generally that we're looking to get.
It's building that habit. It's doing the one thing at a time. And it's great. I love that you said seemingly perfect world out there on Instagram, or
right.
And then you open your Apple News and it's like influencer going to prison because they've been, something where you thought they were living in these $1 zillion homes, but they've been embezzling money for years. Or, it's when I see that, I'm like, oh gosh, or it's seemingly. Let's stick with seemingly when we're comparing ourselves to others. So LaKeisha, you have this incredible resume. Okay. I feel like you need to share with us your education. I mean, from Yale, John Hopkins. I mean, you are someone who walks into a room and others might feel uneducated around you. How they might have these feelings of comparative, similar to looking online on Instagram. But how do you navigate your education, your identity around it without letting it define who you are and define your presence in that room?
Ooh, that is a really, really good question. And I have so many
We love
different
good
angles.
questions on this podcast.
Okay, so there was something that you said in that question in terms of, how maybe I show up and people feel uneducated around me. And it's funny to me a little bit because I see people and look at the things that they've accomplished and I feel uneducated. So
we're all comparing. I mean, that's really the reality of this, aren't we?
Right, exactly. And for me, all the things that I've done, so you've mentioned it. I mean, I started off getting a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering from St. Louis University, great school. And then I went to get a master's in technical management from Johns Hopkins University. And then next it was getting that MBA from Yale University. So, all these different degrees and stuff. I mean, yeah, it was great. I learned a lot. I met some really cool people. At the same time, like I have to keep myself grounded in a sense that, having those accolades or those accomplishments do not define who I am as a person. It's like I am not those degrees. There's a lot more to me than, just having, these pieces of paper that, I can now proudly display on my wall. But it's a lot more.
Don't feel intimidated by them when you walk in. Everyone who walks into the room, do not feel intimidated by what's on your wall, but you should be so proud and hang them.
Yes, absolutely. And it was actually a mentor of mine some years ago where she talked about how a lot of really accomplished, successful people, specifically women, we have the awards, the accolades and things like that, but we feel like we're still not, where we need to be. We feel like we need to get just another degree, another certification or whatever. And in reality, we don't because we have all of these other accomplishments, that have shaped the person that we are by going through those experiences. And a lot of times we don't stop to celebrate those accomplishments. And I know that that was me for the longest time. One of the things that she said was, you probably have have degrees and awards that are just sitting in a box. And at that time when she said this was probably, when did she say this? When I first heard this was maybe like 6 years ago or something like that. And I was like, she's right. I was like, my Johns Hopkins degree at the time was like still in like the little cardboard circular thing.
The roller, yeah.
The roller thing. And it was like literally at the bottom of a box that I haven't opened in like 2 years. So I was like, what am I doing? Like, I worked so hard for that degree. It was 3 years.
But you tell me you sent that to a framing company and got that baby on the wall. Okay.
I did, like, eventually. So yes, when she said that, it took me some time, but like, I was like, let me go and buy these diploma frames and put this up on my wall. So I did. It's a really big degree. So like really big frame. I think it was like a few $100s or something like that. But I'm like, I made the investment, like, let me invest in this. And now it is hanging on a wall in a nice frame, finally. So
found its home. Yeah, I've been that way before, where it's sort of like you have an award or something that you've accomplished, and I didn't want to put them around my office. And I felt it early on more like a lot of people do it for when in a service industry, right? The clients coming in, they see all the awards, and I felt so boastful or salesy, or I don't know how to describe it. And it took me a long time to be able to start sprinkling them around the office. They still are not in mine to this day, but I'm sprinkled them all around for everyone else to get the benefit and sort of the wow effect. But we all have a little bit of that, regardless of what we're displaying out there about ourselves.
Exactly. And for me, it actually, like, I had some level of realization even before I heard this lady say this thing was, in the workplace, I saw people who were getting promoted and, not saying that these people didn't have what it took. I mean, obviously they wouldn't be in the position, like, right. A whole committee would have said, yeah, this person is the person. But, looking at it, it's like, I have in some areas, I'm greater, I have greater experiences than this person in this area. I definitely have the degrees, especially at that time. Even then, I was just like, there's something about them that made them stand out. Like, what is it? And what I found over time was that it was just people just talking more about their experiences and, just being vocal about that. And I know sometimes for like women, and I'll speak for myself, at one point that felt very forward. That felt very uncomfortable to just talk about my experiences or talk about some of the things that I've accomplished. But what I've realized over time is that is absolutely necessary because people won't know what you're about unless you tell them.
Yeah, yes, because then they'll assume back to
exactly.
They'll assume, they'll make a judgment, and it's up to us to sort of put that out to the world, how we want to be viewed. And what else I love about that and that realization for you is we want to connect. I mean, if I walk into your office and don't know you, I'd love to see, a picture of your mom or your kids or your grandma on a desk, something like a vacation picture, like just a little something for me to get to know you. We're human, we do like that personal connection, and that's a great start to it.
Yeah, absolutely. I found myself in the past going into people's office and, noticing something and talk about it. And it's great. It breaks the ice. It's a conversation starter. And, maybe it's something that you see them surfing. Maybe you surf or whatever. I mean, I don't, but, just an example.
Tells you a lot. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So those are really great things. And there's, this other idea that the work will speak for itself. In reality, it does not. Like, you still have to say something because maybe people in that arena, like, let's just say in your workplace where, the people who are around you, maybe they know your work, but maybe you're trying to go outside of that organization or even outside of that department, to something else. And, they're going to ask the people, but it's nothing like, I feel like in order for you to shape the narrative the way you want it to be shaped, you have to continue to deliver that message in the way you want it to be delivered. And then over time, even if you are a hard worker and you do excellent work, the way you describe how you work, and people will pick up on that, and then they will start describing the way that you work, if that makes sense. It's like,
they identify you with it. It's like, oh, it fills in the blank, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we want it easy. It's like, You tell me how you work. And I'm like, all right, that's how she works. I don't have to think about this any longer. Or, it makes that easy. So let's talk about that, because working harder versus working smarter, working strategically. How do you approach this in every day? Because a lot of us feel like, we're in this push, 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 go, 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 work hard, and all your dreams are going to come through. Just keep pushing forward. So break that down for us.
Yeah. So for me, I do believe that there are times where you need to push and go and just get things done. Absolutely. But while you're doing all of that stuff, I also believe that throughout that process, you should be looking for ways in order to make your work easier. So for me, what that looks like is creating personal systems for myself in order to maybe process incoming information. And that could look like, a spreadsheet, or, maybe the way I do my inbox or something like that. Basically just finding little things that you can incorporate into your personal workflow in order to be able to get that sense of working smarter instead of harder. Because for instance, email is a nightmare for a lot of people. And, having to constantly think, okay, what should I do with this, is a lot of mental bandwidth that you can reserve for things that actually require more brain power. So just coming up with simple filtering systems and all of that. It takes some time to figure it out depending on what you're using, but it's actually a great way to stay organized and then also, just not have to think about it. So for instance, when me and my team reached out in order to be on this podcast, I spent some time, actually I worked with one freelancer first, but she spent some time, because I gave her the assignment to spend some time.
Someone's got to do it. Yeah.
Exactly. To organize the inbox. So she gave me a framework, but then I brought somebody else on and then we completed it together. And now it's really organized and it's super seamless for us to process all of the information that's coming into that inbox, because it would be a nightmare to have to think about, where does this go? How do I save this for later, for something that took maybe, a few hours in total to set up, save us so much time on the back end. So, that's just kind of how I think of things from that perspective, and not just for when it comes to work stuff. It's also in my life. I'm always looking for ways. How do I simplify this? How do I make it simpler? So one thing is actually simplifying my wardrobe, which I've heard this, we may have heard this from, people in tech where they wear Steve Jobs had the same
Steve Jobs turtleneck. That comes to mind for everyone.
Yeah, yes. Exactly. So, but it's really simple, but it makes a lot of sense. So a lot of my, I have cute clothes and stuff like that, but a lot of times
you have a capsule, right?
Exactly. It's not super defined, but basically it works for me. So one thing that helps is when I put my clothes up in my closet, it's all color coordinated. So that's me. I have my blazers in one section. I have my, jackets in one section.
Mine is. Yeah.
That kind of thing too. But for the most part, since I have a relatively more shirts than anything, those things are color coordinated. And even in those sections, blazers, those are kind of color coordinated as well. Just so that way it's easy for me. I don't have to think. And then too, when I'm making buying decisions, I'm looking at not just, hey, let me grab this cute shirt. Let me, get a color that's going to go with most of the things that I already have. So that way it's easier for me to basically mix and match my clothes and not really have to think about it too much. So it's so I still, have cute colors and stuff like that. But then I have colors like this where it's gray, and I got a white shirt like this and I have a black shirt like this, so it just goes with anything. And I'm, wearing some green pants, you can't see in the video, but it goes with everything.
Hey, working women, have you ever dreamed of starting a podcast but don't have enough time? I have been there. App chaos, endless Googling, tech rabbit holes, content grind, hours wasted, believe me, and not an episode live. That's why I am gifting you my free training, your complete blueprint to turn episode 1 into 30 days of AI-powered content. No overload, 2K of value inside. So go check it out. There's everything you need for week 1 launch and beyond. Visit workingwomenmentor.com/free training to claim yours now.
It's refining our choices and our time. And often I think it's my current AI obsession, right? It's anything I can do to save time. I'm going to have an AI agent in my email box right now, while I'm in this podcast. It's I don't want to work through my email.
Yes.
All the things I want to do. But it's true. It's like we fear efficiency because we short ourselves the time. And it's like, oh my goodness, this is going to take, this is overwhelming. It's going to take me 5 hours to set this thing up. I don't have the bandwidth to think about that. But yet I have the bandwidth to think about it every single day for the rest of my life because it's going to be so time consuming. So it's like we have to pull the plug at some point and make little pieces and adjustments and efficiencies. So when we're thinking about having an efficient life, having a full life, having a life that, we want to work for us in that direction, what have you learned from a mentor that you feel like has changed some of your trajectory? Will you share with us a story or a lesson that they've taught you?
Yes. Oh my gosh. So over the years, I've had a number of mentors. Some of them were for like a specific season or a specific reason. But basically, just like what I do is I look at, that person, and usually I ask them to be my mentor. Most times they say yes. If it's, truly not a good fit, they'll let me know, but maybe they'll recommend somebody else. And I totally appreciate that.
So you're reaching out. So you're absolutely love it. Love it. Good.
Yeah, absolutely. Just because there's this idea or this fantasy that your mentor is going to find you.
Oh, you're knocking my door one morning.
No, nobody does that because they're in their world. I mean, if it does happen, it's very rare. And I can say honestly, maybe that happened once because I was part of an organization and I was a leader in that organization and this person, saw something and that's cool. But usually it doesn't happen that way. All the mentors that I've had over time have been people that I, saw that they had something I was interested in, set up a conversation with them, and then over time, I would ask them if they would mind mentoring me. And like I said, most would say yes, and some would say, no, it's not a fit. And I appreciate that transparency, to be honest, because we're not wasting time. So going back to your original question, when it comes to a piece of advice or something like that, one mentor, actually, she wasn't even really a mentor. She was somebody I just had one conversation with. She said, treat your career like a business. And at that point, I was very early in my career. And of course, at that time, I see all these people getting promoted and all these other things. So I have these aspirations to go higher in the organization. But that piece of information has stuck with me. And she told me that, I want to say 14 years ago, 15 years ago, and I still remember it. And this lady, she had a level of success well known in her field as well. And it was really great, to see that. And a couple years ago, she was honored at a large event in her industry for her work because she was getting to a point where she was retiring. So treating your work like a business is very important. And it goes back to that organization piece that we were talking about. And it also goes back to, at least for me, it goes to shaping your life the way you want it and setting boundaries. Obviously, like I said, there are times where you really have to push, maybe you have to shift some things around, but it's really managing your career and your life like a business. Businesses have goals, they have revenue targets, they have all these different things, from your personal life in your work life. You want to make a certain salary, you want to get to a certain station or position. And then personally, maybe you want to, go on a really cool vacation, take your family, whatever that is, you have to find a way to work that into your life and you have to prioritize, just like businesses do. They don't try to do everything. Like a startup is not, trying to, maybe they're wearing a lot of different hats, but let's just say they have one product. A lot of focus is going to go into that one product, make it successful. Then they start adding stuff. When we think about amazing companies like Apple, where, they started off a really long time ago, making the personal computer, and then they made different versions of that. And then many years later, they're like, okay, maybe we could break into this audio space. And then that led to the iPhone and a whole bunch of other things that we see now that we could easily buy on their websites. But it was focused on, that one thing or the core thing, and then adding things over time. And I believe that if we approach our life and our career in that exact way, we could accomplish so much more than we probably think we could.
I agree with that. It's the strategy of it all. It's sometimes we are doing, and we're not actually thinking about how you show up in your own career, that brand identity of your business, right? I mean, we're not thinking of how we show up, what we're putting out there, that vibe. We want more. But how is it that we're really showing up and growing and improving and becoming strategic like a business owner? And I think that's a beautiful challenge for anyone. I mean, both personally and professionally, right? I mean, treat our life. We only get one life. We only get one. We only get one. So how do you think of mentorship around money? Did you have an early mentor that showed you and said, hey, LaKeisha, this is what you do with your money. This is how this happens. I mean, what did that look like? Because now it is a focus for you.
Oh, man. So to answer your question, no, I did not have mentors to show me how to do things with money. So I will say that at the school that I went to, I remember I was in middle school in the 6th grade. They did show us how to balance a checkbook. And for those of you who do not know what a checkbook is basically just a way for you to keep track of the money you have in your account. Now we could just pull up an app and look at it.
It was a book. It was actually a book as well. Okay. Yes. So you learned to balance the checkbook. And then from that, how are you helping other people with money, other women? I know through Thriving Ambition, I know through, building financial options and structure. So how are you providing that mentorship now since you didn't have any?
Yeah. So, I mean, it was actually just, seeing the examples around me growing up. I mean, unfortunately, like the story was always, there's never enough money. We don't have money to do this. Money doesn't grow on trees, blah, blah, blah. Like all those things that, most people probably heard growing up. And it was so frustrating to me. And, as I got older and started to, especially when I got to college, and I went to St. Louis University. It's a private Catholic Jesuit university. So, I was there on, student aid and, had to get scholarships and grants and loans and all these things to pay for the tuition. And I saw people, that were like pulling up in a Mercedes Benz, and they're 18 years old, like me. I'm like,
wow.
Yeah, exactly.
Not in my checkbook that I just balanced.
Right. It's like, okay, so somebody's making some money somewhere. And basically just over, in that time span, just, seeing, that there were people who were thriving. There were, families that didn't have to worry about where the tuition money was going to come from every semester like I did, or how I'm going to pay for books, or how I'm going to pay for this meal plan that they made us get, even though I'm a commuter student. So, like all these like different things. So it got me really curious, but the real transformation for me didn't really come until I started working full time, where I was responsible for like the rent and all these other new things. And at that time, being an engineer, engineers typically are paid very well coming out of school. It's a lot of work, but paid very well coming out of school. And then, at that point, once I got a bit stable and I knew how much everything costs, I was like, okay, I've heard about investing. I knew about Warren Buffett, but just like that he was just really rich. I knew, that there were other people that were similar to him that also had a lot of money. It's like, how do I tap into that? So I just started just researching online and talking to some of my coworkers that had maybe like 4 or 5 years they were older than me. They were investing. I wasn't invested, and just trying to learn from them, not necessarily like them telling me like exactly what to do, but they did say, hey, read this book.
Setting the example of just start, right? Find a vehicle and just start and put a little bit, or put what you can, but start today.
Exactly. Yeah, that is what got me. And then I started to, like I said, go to the websites that they recommended, read the books. And then it just really just fueled my interest in it a lot more, because the more I read, the more I got interested, the more questions I had. And me being a very curious person, I just followed that curiosity. And over time, I eventually invested into my retirement account, because I wasn't invested initially. And then I made the decision to invest my personal funds into certain companies. And over time, those investments grew and I kept adding to my knowledge over time. And, at this point, there's always something to learn. The markets are always changing. There's always some, news headline. And I try not to pay too much attention to news headlines actually because it's all gloom and doom. But in reality, if you have that interest to, study a company or industry or something like that because you're interested in investing, you learn, to separate the noise from the news headline to what's actually happening at the company. And that could actually potentially position you much better than some person that's just trying to, catch a news headline and maybe throw some money because, their cousin or somebody mentioned it. So yeah, it's the idea of just starting and just being curious and following that. So hopefully I answered your question. I feel like I went all the way around, but
how are you helping people learn to trade? Because you are now taking this knowledge that you're self-taught and you're clearly analytical, you clearly research, right? You're this person who has a brain for this. But speak to me as a listener about trading, about this repeatable skill that we can learn, even if this isn't a profession, even if we have a financial advisor. Talk to me about this piece to help me as a listener.
Yes, absolutely. So throughout my journey, I have had some mentors. So I paid for mentorship to learn how to trade because trading is maybe something that people haven't heard of, but they have heard of investing. So I started off as an investor. Basically, that idea is to, find a company that you like or companies that you like, put money in it, hold it for a really long time. So that's more of the Warren Buffett strategy. Buy it, hold it forever. That's not quite my strategy, but that's the idea of investing. Trading, on the flip side, is more of short-term investing. The same idea is true where maybe I find a company that I'm interested in and I put some money in and then I hold it maybe for a couple days, weeks, or maybe even a few months. And, hopefully it goes in the direction I want it to go in. And, I've made some money from that. So that is the difference between investing and trading. Investing is long-term, trading is short-term. And when it comes to getting started in the markets, when I first started to trade, I did not have a mentor. And as a result, I lost so much money so fast. And I'm talking about tens of thousands of dollars in a week, which is insane to think about now.
It's a lesson to learn, isn't it, in a week?
Yes. It was a huge lesson that I learned.
Well, we learn something from everything.
Yeah, and it's crazy, the amount of money that I lost in that week. If I would have taken just a fraction of that to invest in mentorship, there's no way I would have lost that. But, you live, you learn. So for me, after that period, I did seek out mentors to learn how to trade. And I'm always learning. Last year, I got a mentor and that helped out a lot. But before, I had other mentors, and basically it's just building up my knowledge over time. And I believe for the person that is curious about it, the first thing is to maybe watch a video on what trading is. And then maybe if there's a company or something that you're interested in, learn about that company. There's so much information just by using the app on your phone, the stock app. You could go type in the company and then there's a whole bunch of articles on that company. I think that's the easiest way to start. And then if you're serious about it, definitely seek out mentorship. Just because for me, that really did help accelerate. And I talked about the big loss that I had before I got mentorship. But after that, there were no losses
like that.
Not even close. Gains close to that, yes, absolutely, over time, but not losses. So, and that person, may take some time to find, but I will caution people to not overthink, not overanalyze, because it's we want to find that holy grail person that's going to teach us everything. And that's the only person I'm going to learn from. That doesn't exist. It's really, taking the first step, learning from somebody, taking what you can from that person. And maybe there's somebody else where now the right questions to ask, exactly what you're looking for. And then you can just keep doing that. That's what I did. And that just really accelerated my growth. And, at this point, it is the bulk of my income in terms of just being a market, someone who trades the markets.
LaKeisha, I'm curious just to someone listening would say, I don't have time to do this. They think of it as a day trading, having to actively be online, trade, this high intensity environment, right? So how would you answer that? How would you speak to that person to say, hey, this isn't a hourly day trading. You don't have to close funds by end of day, right? Like
No.
that's number one. And number
Yeah.
two, I mean, there's also so much talk right now in the markets. I mean, even Warren Buffett just said it, markets like a church and a casino right now. And it's like speculative. It's just gambling. It's like you might as well be gambling in some instances. So how do you distinguish between that? I mean, because if you say, Rainey, go look up Coca-Cola. Well, I don't know, what the hell Coca-Cola has been doing for the last X. Yes, I can read it and research it, but I wouldn't feel quite qualified. So help me get through that block that I may have to get out there and become the trader and not the gambler.
Yeah. So first of all, I think that it's a misconception that people feel like they don't know enough when actually they do, especially if it's a company that you've been using for years, you like the product and you are, using it maybe every day, every week, whatever it is. Like, I feel like people know a lot more than they give themselves credit for, because I had that same block before when I first got into investing. I'm like, I don't know what to invest in. I literally looked around my house. I had all these Apple products. I invested in Apple. That was a great decision.
Very good decision. Yeah.
So it's like, just kind of like thinking about it in that way. It's like, you don't need to be a financial genius in order to make that first decision on what to invest in. So for me, it was a company that I knew, company that I loved, I trusted. And, just looking at a simple, looking at the app, on my phone and just saw, okay, over the past 5 years, the line is going up. Great. That's literally all I did. I'm not even kidding. And so because I understood how the market worked generally, and it was a company that I loved and trusted. So if people are feeling like they're blocked, they don't know what they should do. And this is not financial advice. It's just what I did. But take some time and think about the companies that you actually like and start there. I think that is the best starting place.
It's the same with Warren, right? I mean,
Yeah.
He drinks Coca-Cola. He bought Coca-Cola.
Exactly.
It's like you invest in what you know. We spend money on, I guarantee you, the ladies listening to this podcast right now, I mean, how much have we spent on goods? We are almost the biggest spender, I think, out there on consumer goods. Women are. And so think about where your dollars are going and what is behind those dollars, what the industries around those dollars. And that is always a beautiful start. What about the fear, though, LaKeisha? What about the fear of, I don't want to bet the farm. I can't lose tens of thousands of dollars. I'd rather go to Vegas and play craps.
Yes. So this is the thing. So when I first got started investing, I was afraid as well, because at that time it was around 2008. All it was just gloom and doom. And I knew that, and then, just reading a lot more, I knew that there were some people who actually made money during that time period. There were people who lost, of course, but there were a lot of people who made money during that time as well. So I was also curious, like, okay, well, there's somebody gaining. Like, how do I be on the gaining side? This was with investing. So it's that steady type of investing. You don't touch it. And, for that person that's afraid, the thing that I tell people now, trading is all about risk management. It's a boring word, but it is very, very important. So when I first started investing, all I had to put into the market was $1,000. And I told myself that if this $1,000 is lost, like, I will not be homeless. Like that is the thing, or that is the way that I thought about it, because the misconception is that there are people who do treat the market, the financial markets, like gambling, when it's really not. There's a lot of data and information where, if somebody just spent 5 minutes reading headlines about the company, that's a good place to start, because I still do that to this day. It's a good place to start and get a good enough understanding. And imagine if you're doing that over the course of weeks or months, like, you're going to feel a lot more comfortable about that company, and you're going to feel a lot more comfortable putting your money into, potentially putting it into that company, or maybe not. Maybe you read this and you're like, that's probably not the company for me. And that's good too, because all of that is going to be data. It's going to be information that you're going to use. So that was pretty much my story, and like how I got over the fear part. And it's going to look different for everybody. So one thing I told somebody a while back is that, if you're interested in the markets, do your own research. Like
Sure.
I cannot give advice, and I don't.
I love though that you motivate us too. It's not giving us advice on exactly how to do it. It's saying, hey ladies, get out there and figure something out. If you're interested in this, there is a way. And on that note, LaKeisha, would you share with our audience your mentor moment, the one thing that we want to remember you by from this episode?
Okay. So I was thinking about this, and the biggest thing that I want people to take away from this conversation is that if there is something that you want to do, there's information out there, you can figure it out, especially in this day of AI. Like, obviously, don't take AI as the gospel, whatever your information you get from it. But there are ways you can figure anything out these days. And it's about taking that first step. That first step may be typing into Google, the thing you're trying to figure out, and then just following your curiosity in order to take the next step and the next step and just keep going. And then before you know it, you'll be like, why did I wait so long? And that was the same type of feeling I had when it came to investing. I said, why did I wait so long?
I should have done this years ago.
Exactly. It's like, it's not so scary once you start taking those little tiny steps, and basically it's just going to build up to bigger and better things. And that's what I want for you.
I love that. LaKeisha, where can we find you and support you?
Yes. So these days I am spending a lot of time on LinkedIn, and you can just search for my name and you will find me. So I spend a lot of time there. If you want to connect, just let me know that you listen to this podcast so that way we could connect.
Yay. I love it. LaKeisha, this has been wonderful. I love the curiosity in your voice. I love that you're always like, there is a way. I see someone else doing it. I'm going to figure that out. I can do that too. I think that's where my heart bleeds for you. I just absolutely love it. Thank you for your time today. This has been wonderful.
Yes. Thank you so much, Rani, for having me.
Hey, wait, before you go, I have one ask. Would you please leave us a review? Tapping on those stars on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you're listening to this will really help us. It'll spread the word and your voice and your impact as well, because every episode we are giving mentor moments. And I hope you can continue this conversation with us at workingwomenmentor.com. To apply to be a guest, find show notes and episode details. And if you've ever wanted to start a podcast, we've got the perfect course for you. Follow us on Instagram at Working Women Mentor and DM us the word mentor, and I'll send you over our free guide on mentorship so you can incorporate it into your life. Thanks so much for joining us. And until then, cheers until the next episode.